Getting fluids into our little kids can be its own adventure all by itself, enough that we have an entire video about it and all kinds of ideas. Now, the more you're a parent of more kids, the more ideas you'll add to your own toolbox on this one. But this is just a few places to get you started, and I encourage you, think outside the box. Think of your little one and what would make them happy. So one of the first things that I came up with years and years ago, before everyone had a straw, was the idea of a straw. In the old days, you only got a plastic straw if you went to the restaurant. But now, of course, water bottles come with straws. People have beautiful glass or stainless or all kinds of them. But what if you had a straw that was just for sick days? Don't we all want to be treated specially? Don't we all want to experience the love of an event and say, oh, I think it's a special straw day. What do you think? Oh, yeah, the one with the little flower on it? Yeah, that's probably what we're going to use today. Don't you think? Oh, yeah. And all of a sudden, we have some enthusiasm where before we weren't able to tempt them with even a swallow, right? So find your little thing that works. And there's some really beautiful ones out there, by the way, in terms of glass ones and things like that. I also had a lot of luck with my little ones with tea parties. So in this case, you want to make sure that your tea set, your basically dolly tea set, is suitable for actual food contact. Some of them are not made to actually be used, and they have, not safe, coatings. So you want to make sure on that score. But you use these small tea sets, and what I found is that my children would drink nearly anything out of those little thimble-full things. So they could pour in the little tiny, they get it on the tray, and they can pour it. And again, we all need to feel special. And so I can put that like marshmallow tea or the molasses and the milk version that may not cut it if you were having a party, but could maybe cut it as fun medicine in a teacup, or your special honey with marshmallow or maple syrup to help it flavor it up, or, whatever is going to work for your family. But they're going to do that. This is great for like the 4 to 8 year olds, right? They're going to want to do the pouring and the sipping, and then they'll go through quite a bit that way. Popsicles are another avenue. If you can use the cold stuff instead, if you'd like to make your own, you can sneak in a lot of goodness there with elderberry syrup, probiotics, all kinds of goodness, whatever it is that you're trying to sneak in there. So I found that popsicles are often really popular avenues for things. Also, what about tiny cups? So I'm always looking around, right? What would make things special? What lets us maybe integrate with past generations? A lot of people have tea sets from grandma. Or grandma was a traveler, right? Or great grandma. And now you have a bunch of little shot glasses from the Sears Tower in the Grand Canyon. And you're thinking, what do I do with these? Those little tiny cups can be amazing. So if you have some in the family, or those like really special tea sets, where she collected them and you're not sure, they sit in the cupboard, you don't really use them, but you don't really look at, maybe you could use them for sick stuff. And it becomes your special time and you get to connect with your ancestors, and it's lovely. The other part is the whole shot glass solution. So it happened for me. I kind of came on it myself again. Seems like forever ago when my kids were super little. And I was in TJ Maxx and I came across this set of shot glasses that each had like this beautiful colored ball at the bottom that was all these different colors. And they were just like little tiny, they were so pretty. I'm not a drinker, but I'm like, isn't there something I could do with a $6 set of adorable things? And it's where I came up with where I could put a swig of juice, which my kids didn't get a lot of, and I could dump in all kinds of other things, the probiotics and the liquid vitamin D and a little vitamin C powder. There was a stage where I could even put in cod liver oil and get them to drink it down. That ship sailed after a while. But a lot of times we can gulp down a little something with a chaser, where if it was in a different format, not as fun, bigger amount, it's too overwhelming. But that's pretty manageable for a kid, and a lot of times using the cute stuff becomes a motivation. It helps you get over their inhibitions on that. My other one, you're going to laugh, is singing or massage. So I had a situation where a few rounds of some pretty big illnesses with one of my kids, and he would only sip his remedies or sip the tea with the right stuff in it or whatever if I was massaging his feet. And I'd be like, I would just massage really slow. And if he stopped sipping, I would stop rubbing. We also did it with songs, so I would sing him his favorite song. I'd sing really slow. And He wanted me to sing, and I said, like, you keep sipping and I'll keep singing. I would do kind of anything to play with him, to move past this place where he would dig in a way that he was fragile at the time. We really needed to work on that. So that's how we got through. Now, baths are another avenue. Now, we wouldn't opt into baths if the children are chilly and a little fragile, right? We don't want to get them chilled through that. But splashing around a little bit can allow them to absorb fluid through their skin. My kids always love funnels. That's a great one, right? I would have them eat the popsicles in the bathtub, a lot less mess. Sometimes I would introduce the candlelight bath, depending on the age of your kids and how much they know to be safe. Maybe it's way away on the counter. Maybe you have to stand there with them. But you can do things to bring different moods to it, to encourage them in different ways. You can, of course, but you could be adding salt to the bath to help reabsorb and rebalance their electrolytes. It's like minimal absorption, but still helpful. Now, let's be frank. If you're going to have pouring stuff, which the kids love, and the funnels, which the kids love in the bathtub, you're going to have water on the floor. So you're going to be going through all those towels again. My little trick is to put all the dirty laundry there. That's over there anyway. And to stick it all there, it's going to get wet, and then you can scoop it all and put the whole thing in the laundry. And it kind of saves you from having to do double laundry. Just a little tired mom trick on that one. Foot soaks are great. Even though there's a small amount of fluid that might be getting in, it's still something you can treat through the soles of the feet completely. And I was going to share with you a quick story on this one. And then, again, back to my fragile kid, who's not now, but at the time was going through a stage of things. And he was really sick. He was really, really sick. It was a ear, respiratory, whole thing. And he had antibiotics once in his life, but he had gotten so sick from the antibiotics within 18 hours. He wasn't sick when we did it. It was a preventative thing, another thing, but that I wouldn't do now. But I did at the time. And he got digestively very ill from it. He had green stools, acted lethargic, and seemed to get really injured from the antibiotics. So I was trying super hard with this illness to not go there unless I thought it was gravely important. And so I was really fighting it. And it kind of had gone on a number of weeks. And he had gotten to a spot where he wouldn't let me dose him. He wouldn't put anything in his mouth, not even the fun remedies. He wouldn't let me put any essential oils on him. He would literally wake up from his sleep if I did that. And I was really worried about him. I was really worried. And in the end, I thought, okay, what about foot soaks? And so, again, he wouldn't let me put anything in him or on him. I couldn't get him remedies. It's hard for a mom who, this is my toolbox, right? And so I was watching carefully to see if we needed to opt in. But again, I was worried that maybe the effects of the antibiotics on him might have been even harder than the benefits we hope to get, right? So it was a toss-up. So in the end, what I did was I knew garlic was a great antiseptic, antibiotic, right? So people were bringing me stuff. I blended a whole head of garlic in the hottest water I could in the blender, strained it out, and put it in a basin, and he would put his feet in it. And he was a young guy. He would only put his feet in it as long as we were playing Crazy Eights. We played Crazy Eights for days. I did this several times a day. And it's what pulled him out, was garlic foot baths, which we felt like we invented at the time. So don't underestimate how having a wide kind of toolbox can really come in handy. Sometimes you have to cycle through a whole lot of different things to find the thing that works there. Now, there's always, of course, juicy foods, if they're able to eat, that you can add in if you're worried about dehydration and trying to bring your fluid levels back up, especially after they've been ill. So we're talking about healthy homemade Jell-O. I have some recipes on the website. Those are good to find. Like things like melons, watermelons, cucumbers, and any high fluid contact fruits or vegetables can all be helpful. So I want to end with one more piece for you, which is this, which is basically an alternative IV. So again, using medical care is a great thing. And if you ever are worried about your child, you feel like they're too vulnerable, you're out of ideas, it's very appropriate to seek medical care. I am never urging you to not. I want to remind you over and over again. If you're out of your depth, if you can't relax about what's going on, you should consult with somebody and get more eyes on your child, more information into the picture, more solutions at hand, whatever it takes. And even if you needed antibiotics or something like that, you can always just go back to rebuilding after that. Now, there can be a case where knowing other ways to get fluids in can be helpful. So I'm talking basically about enemas, and it's what I call an alternative IV. So enemas in past generations were a common tool of healthcare. They were used all the time. Every family had an enema bag, and that was one of the ways that they dealt with things, either constipation or if medicines or different things. Now, we're in a different generation, obviously. And for a lot of people, this is an icky idea. This is like, no way. And I have to admit, like, I haven't done it with my kids. I wasn't going to try and get a 10-year-old boy to do that. This is not the time, right? And so this is one of those tools to know about. You may never activate it. You may activate it only for yourself as an adult if things got too rocky. But for instance, there are circumstances where people are isolated in their home due to weather, or medical care can't get to them, or they can't get to medical care, or medical care is shut down. Everything from weather events to big cultural events that can change things. Here in Michigan, sometimes we have huge snows and people are kind of snowed in for a day. So if you were in a spot where you really needed to have another thing to do because things were getting vulnerable, or maybe you have a baby who you could, that you wanted to help, or a small child, or someone who's very sick and wasn't going to fight about it. Those are all options. So again, I'm about expanding the toolbox. I'm not telling you that you have to do this one if it's not for you. But here's the facts of it. The lower intestine's job is to absorb fluid as the feces come out before before you have a stool. And so it absorbs the nutrients and fluids, and it's one of the ways that there could be a lot of absorbing. So instead of using an enema to try and create that urge to go, you're trying to use it as a slow drip like an IV to absorb. And it can absorb really rapidly. It's kind of amazing. You don't do it fast. It's like a drip by drip. So interestingly, almost anything that's body temperature could be used. So it could just be a dollar store fleet enema you keep on the back shelf, but you could add some of that great Celtic salt or bioplasm to it, right, to help rebalance. But we've also used nourishing broths, oddly, that we skimmed the oil off of. We've used, like at births sometimes, for ladies who didn't want to go in but really needed some help. Or nourishing teas. If they're very fragile, I might make sure I had sugar or honey in it to help give them a little bit of a blood sugar boost. Electrolyte ingredients like the salt, the bioplasm are all great. Sweet can help them make them feel better. You could use anything, maple syrup, even sugar if you had to. And again, you would go slow. If you on the nozzle, you would use something like coconut oil or butter. Again, that would be helpful nutrients, the little bit of absorbing that helps there. And you'd go really slow. You could also use a blue bulb syringe like we use for little babies, right? When they come from the hospital or after a birth, there's that blue bulb syringe. It's very tiny, but it has a tiny nozzle. So you can oil up the rectum, gently insert it a little ways past the sphincter, and then drip slowly. If they're on their back or they're on their left side, it's always ideal. Slower is better. It absorbs better. Sanitation matters. So you want to be clean and careful. And you could always get more information from others or online. But it's one of your options. And it's a good one to know about because you can really, in a pinch, take really good care of somebody who's in a serious vulnerable spot. So those are some of the many different ways you could, in more fun ways, get fluids into your kids and into your family members if you needed to.